Andrea, was the forbidden fruit a tantalizing taste of enlightenment destined to inspire, or a fateful bite that leads us straight to damnation?
That was a really clever one. I liked that.
Thank you very much. This is Eric.
This is Andrea.
This is Hallmark Mysteries and
And more.
This podcast was created by fans for fans and is not affiliated with or sponsored by Hallmark or the Hallmark channel.
Andrea. Tomorrow night, no, not tomorrow night, I guess 2 nights, it all begins the Christmas marathon for the next several weeks to get until mid-December of watching 3 to 4 movies a week, where it becomes literally a full time for us trying to review all of those. Fortunately, we don't have really that many mysteries coming up. We do have the Mistletoe Murder series coming out, but we don't have any other than that. We don't really have any murders. So
That's
are
probably
you
a good thing.
are you ready? Are you ready?
Yes. Okay. So we were going to kind of, we figured at the start of like our weekly drops, we'll share the movies that are coming this weekend, and then we'll share which one we are most excited for. And then the following week, we'll share, what movie from the weekend we most enjoyed. Because I know at least a lot of my friends, they don't watch every single movie. They actually really look at my Instagram page and look at my reviews and go by that. So I think people listening probably are the same, because at some point, I mean, especially around Thanksgiving is when usually people get there's so much content, they fall behind. So they just want to know, what are the ones that we should watch? So I think this will be a great way for people who might be in that boat where they're not going to watch every single one, but if they align with my reviews or your reviews each week on the podcast, this might be a good, like, okay, I'm going to give that one a go. If I have one to pick, which one should it be? So
Uh,
for the ones coming out this weekend, Friday is 'Twas the Date Before Christmas. Saturday, Holiday Crashers, and Sunday is Scouting for Christmas. So one of these was on your top 5 list. I'm assuming you're picking that.
and one of them was on my bottom 3 list, and
So
I am
nothing.
not picking that. Yes, 'twas the date before Christmas. Super excited, kicking off the whole series, and Amy Groening getting her lead. So all into it. Fake boyfriend, right up my
And which
alley.
was the bottom one for you, in case people didn't hear it or
the
remember?
the scouting for Christmas, and it's mostly because it has the strong lead kid. Now, if it is a good kid, I'll say okay, it can work. Avery Peters, she was great in a Christmas cookie catastrophe. So a kid can do it. More often than not, they don't. And it pains me because JC Daughton is in this movie, and as we know, she's my absolute like favorite side, or not side, secondary character. So it pains me, and I'm hoping that somehow they get the kid right and the kid's not too precocious and too annoying. But I don't know. What about you?
Well, I'm going with the one you didn't mention, the Saturday night premiere, the Holiday Crashers. So I watched the Friday and Saturday preview ones, while I was watching the new Saturday night movie. And wow, they both looked really good. Like, I'm excited for both Friday and Saturdays. I haven't seen the Sunday night preview yet, but Holiday Crashers, watching like Chris McNally, I was like, okay, like this looks exciting. Like the synopsis was like okay for me, but then actually like watching the preview for it, I'm intrigued, and I am looking forward to that one the most this coming weekend.
So when I did my just off the synopsis, was like, this could be absolutely fantastic or it's going to be bad.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
looks
kind of the
cute.
Chris McNally. For me, I know a lot of people love Chris McNally. For me, he either kills it or not. And right. So I'm just counting it, and I think the whole premise sounds like a ton of
It
fun. So
looks
I'm
cute.
with you. It's a I think it's a very strong 1-2 punch out of the gate.
So we'll recap that next week, or we'll just kind of see which ones was our favorite from. Maybe Eric will actually eat his words and really like the Scouting for Christmas. So
Hey,
we'll find out.
it happened with as I mentioned a million times, the Royal Nanny. That year, that was my least favorite, and while it wasn't my favorite of the year, it was a top 10 I thought it was like definitely one of the best movies. So, yeah,
Hey, that
I
happened with
hope.
me when I picked Luke and Allison Sweeney's the Village one. I picked
All
that as one of my
right,
top 5.
you went the
It did
other
not end in
direction.
my, it was in the bottom 5 that year. So that's
Yep.
been known to happen too.
Because, well, I
So
mean,
let's,
obviously we're going
yeah.
off of just a description, and
Oh
these
yeah.
descriptions
The little
sometimes are
preview
like
that we see. Yeah.
really weird
Yeah.
written. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, you saw the little preview, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, because we
That looks
talked about
cute.
this when we did our review of like, oh, I don't know, and then you see that, and you're like, okay, that's not what I was thinking it was.
Well, it's hard to pick up the vibes of like, is this
Right.
going to be serious? Is this more funny? Is this played for laughs? Is this more romance? But then watching the preview, you're like, oh, okay, this is where they're going in that direction, and you get more intrigued.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what Forbidden Fruit is all about?
It's not a long one. Goldie and Tom take the next step in their romantic relationship, but their first date is interrupted when they witness the murder of a rock star, which stars Nikki DeLoach and Andrew Walker. So,
Well, I know that Foiled Plans was your favorite of all the Curious Caterers, so why don't you tell us what you thought? Were they able to maintain the trajectory?
I freaking love this one. 4.5. Actually, I could maybe even like, let's do 5. I loved it. Like, I mean, this is Curious Caterer is now becoming probably one of my favorite mystery series. Like, and I have not felt this way since really Garage Sale ended. So, like, to have a series where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm actually really looking forward to this next movie now that they've done 2 knock out of the park movies for myself. Um, I love the cast. I love the characters. I think they're doing a really good job of building things up. They're showing like the daughter. I loved how she started kind of doing her own little sleuthing in this one. The mystery itself with the band, I thought that was clever. Because, again, for me, a lot of it is about the settings. What are kind of the places they're going? What are the stories they're telling? And if it's a boring one, like it just doesn't do much for me. I prefer when they have a little bit of excitement. So having that band, that is unique. When they went to the castle, the movie before, that is unique. These again are the memorable thing. The pizza parlor in the Aurora Tea Garden, like all of these are things that stick out to me and something that I like. And that's probably even the same with like when I think about my Murder She Wrote episodes that I enjoy. It's the same. It's that extra setting that just kind of gives the movie or gives the show just boosts the elevation of it for me. Whereas the diner one in the Aurora one that we talked about Monday, like that should have done it for me, but I didn't get to spend enough maybe time in the diner, or the setting just didn't quite push it over the edge for me. So yeah, that the writing on this one though, super quick. Like some of the lines were, just back and forth that, you had to like, again, watch it a couple times to pick up everything. I thought that like Marla adding the ice cubes to the orchid, one, that's too many ice cubes for the orchid. I think an orchid only needs 1 ice cube a week. I've had orchids and I've
Oh
killed
wait,
them.
that's something you actually, that's what you do to an
Yeah.
orchid?
Yeah, you just
Huh.
put an ice cube in.
I
And
thought she was just
yeah,
throwing it away. I didn't realize that was a
that's how
thing.
well, that's how I've always watered my orchids and I've killed them. So maybe don't listen to me. But
Maybe you need more than one. Don't do cyanide orchid
you're not
or
supposed to
cyanide ice
overwater
cubes.
them. And so like if you overwater them, like that many ice cubes might have killed it. But like how they kind of filmed it where you're like, ooh, this is gonna circle back. Same thing with, the guitarist and showing the bare feet and having them even mention like, oh, you're doing that again. That's so gross. And just you're kind of picking up like this is important. This is going to be coming down the line. And I thought they dropped those in there really well. Richard's new girlfriend, she was not my favorite. She was obviously essential for this plot point and to move along the story. I'm hoping she's not back the next movie. I
No,
don't know what happened to
she's just a
just a one
suspect.
movie, yeah, to move things. Marla's boyfriend, that was my question. What happened to him? Like the cop guy, he's just gone in this movie. And like, obviously they needed it for this story, but like, where did he go? Did he, because obviously his dad in the last one in the castle had some stuff, but did he leave the town? We don't know. Is he going to come back in another movie? Did he just ride off in his motorcycle and, go off into the sunset? So I would have liked a little mention there. Because again, I think if you're watching these, you're like, hey, what happened to that person? This one, we were supposed to be really given in and bought in on this character. And now he's just gone without telling us why. Just as I said with the Hannah, last week, like we and meeting the audience start to notice these things. We love these characters. We love these series. We get invested in them. So again, love this. I thought the chemistry, they're starting to, work for me. I loved the kiss, when like Goldie grabbed Tom and they just went to town. Um, I really buy them, I guess, together more so. It just seems like a friends vibe, as we talked about on Monday, but like moving past that, they're probably like you and your wife. They can move past that friend vibe and get to like more of the romance. So that all worked. I loved it. Don't bring me down. Did you love this?
Well, I gave it a 4,
Okay.
kind of for the same reason you gave it your 5, and I'll get to it a little bit
Ooh.
later um in here what brought it down for me, because pretty much everything you talked about, I agree. I love like the snappy dialogue, the beginning with Goldie and Marla, like fanning,
And them singing
fangirling it
together. I
all
forgot to
over the
even mention
band.
that. Yeah.
Like that was so good. And like the daughter being like, oh my God, rolling the eyes because your kids are obviously too young for it. You will get there. But when you sit there and are, talking to your kids about back when you
Michael
were like the
Bolton.
coolest.
Michael
Yes.
Bolton.
I don't know if you'll ever be the coolest when you talk about Michael Bolton, but when you're like sitting there telling the stories about how you were like just the coolest of the cool, and your kids are like, yeah, right. There is no way you were ever that way. I just thought it was great. And then the snap, like even like you're saying with Goldie and Tom, their dialogue was fun and flirty. My favorite one of theirs, though, was the interaction was when, they're obviously their date gets all messed up because of a murder. It happens. But then they're like, oh, let's do the second date. And Tom's like trying to ask her out. And Goldie immediately goes, oh, you want me to like break in and her into the house? And he's like, no, I was thinking dinner, but so good. I will say too, that Nikki, I don't know if it's like the wardrobe or what. She just knows how to wear clothes. Like her outfits throughout this entire thing, she looks spectacular. And like I always thought, like obviously Nikki DeLoach is pretty and stuff like that. I think she is getting prettier and prettier and prettier in every episode. She was gorgeous in this episode. Loved her. And one of the things too, what was one of our biggest complaints about the early Curious Caterers?
That
Mason, right?
Goldie and Tom felt like brother and
Well,
sister.
there's that, but Mason being, well, it wasn't really a
Incompetent.
complaint, right?
It was
Or,
incompetent,
but go
yes.
back to Goldie and Tom, it
Yeah.
wasn't a complaint. It was just like we didn't need them to progress into a
Yeah.
relationship,
Yes.
right? It did, and like you said, they've done it very nicely, effortlessly, and yes, now they've got heat.
Yeah.
Great job there. But Mason being incompetent and kind of a buffoon, and it really annoyed us. And I forget if it was, I think it was like the third episode there where it was just like so bad. But now he's like essentially a competent police officer doing
Yeah.
interrogations and kind of being like, when the guys are trying to push back,
He's
he's like, no,
reliable.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I really like how, and he's still a funny guy, but they pulled that back. And then one of the things, couple when we talked to JC, and then when we had JC and Nikki on, we were like, oh, we would love for you guys to do a karaoke because they obviously both can sing. And hey, we didn't get karaoke, but we got pretty close. They were both singing, so
Seemed very
that
curious. That's karaoke-ish.
yeah, I loved it. Loved it to see them there because they're both super talented. And like you said, my last point was I loved the fact like the daughter was involved. We just talked, earlier about how kids can sometimes not pull it off and can bring things down. They had this daughter cast perfectly. She is doing a great job and they're writing her perfectly. So I think the daughter, like you said, she's adding to it. Her she's like a little bit of sleuthing, but at the same time, a little bit of eye roll. But nothing they're doing with the daughter is over the top, which is what they tend to do to kids that get so annoying. So the entire cast, great. Like I said, I really liked it. I would have given it higher. I will get into it a little later. What brought it down for me?
Well, the mystery minute for me, I enjoyed this one. I didn't see it coming, but although I didn't pay close enough attention or didn't want to see it coming, I guess. The band member killer. Um, And I love Sarah Strange. I mean, again, like this movie, she played another completely unique character. And I never really thought she was the killer. But I just loved, I forgot to mention that in, my comments above. So I just wanted to throw out another shout out to her because, again, brilliantly played band manager and just, could have been a suspect, but we kind of, maybe knew she wasn't. And she might circle back later in my conversations today. But the band, like the actual mystery of like the car scene, I believe there was a Murder She Wrote episode, and it's not the one I picked for my Hallmark and Chill, but had the same thing where, where Tom was like, oh, was she driving? And no, they were actually in the passenger seat. And, solving that mystery, because I'd figured there had to have been a tie-in, because they wouldn't have shown us that car accident that happened 20 years ago if it didn't have relevance to the movie.
Right.
And so again, because they, just as I said with the orchid and with the bare feet, like they purposely were stringing us along. I just missed that string for finding the killer. But I also enjoyed how, even like the ruby and how the ring and, he had the ring and all of the reference, the scene with him when he, Marla locks up the shop and realizes it. I'm like, oh, this is really interesting because Sarah Strange in Garage Sale always dated the murderer, in Garage Sale. She'd often go on dates and he'd end up being the murderer. So I was like, oh, this is really cool how they have, I don't know if they did it on purpose, but I was like, she's in this movie. And then, Marla, who's like the Sarah Strange sidekick, is now dating, or going on a date with the murderer. So again, I don't know if that was on purpose, but I thought that was maybe a little wink at Garage Sale, maybe not. I did find the killer scene when, he has the knife at her neck and Goldie's singing to him. And he clearly didn't like that. I was like, I don't know if I would keep singing to him. He's got a knife on her throat and you're just going to keep irritating him by continuing to sing. I don't know if I would have went that route, but obviously it worked out in the end. And again, the scene, was it as memorable as, again, the Aurora Tea Garden endings? Probably not, but it was better than the Hannah where he, Vic Webster just takes it from the suspect. What do you think?
You know what? I'll say you just made me think the final scenes with Curious Caterer are actually kind of weak if
Mm,
if you just go through them all. It doesn't distract from the series, and I agree with
no,
you, by the way.
yeah.
The series has grown so much, but when they do that final one, you see how it was done in Aurora, so good. Like I was going back to the one when it was the neighbor who did it and they were in the kitchen and you had Lachlan was there and then Andrew
Oh
came
yeah,
in
yeah.
and did it, or the very first one when they like I don't know. They just don't do that quite well. But for me, um it was decent. Once again, we'll get to Hallmark and Chill. All things will be revealed. But my problem with it is if you're going to have someone be the murderer, they need to get some screen time. And I know that they often will do it and have someone
Mm.
who's sort of this like person who you don't think about too much. I think it was just a little too much where he was kind of non-existent really
That's probably why I didn't think
for
of him.
most of the
Yeah.
story, right? And because I thought it was like, oh, I think it's going to be, one of the band members and it's him, but he was just so non-existent that even when Marla was going on the date, I was like, wait, is she going on the date with the band guy or is that the electrician guy? And
Same. I had the same
I
question.
like
I was thinking it was an electrician, and then I was like, wait,
because
nope,
they showed
different
him
one.
so little, right?
Yes,
That I was
yes.
like, who is it? So that was my thing. Is I think they could have, and we talked about with Aurora where I thought they gave it enough where you're like, ooh, it could be, but maybe not, right? And then you start questioning it. Where I just don't think they ever even put him on the radar. And so that was my sort of complaint about the mystery minute. But once again, it's kind of going back to the mystery 101. Didn't really watch that for who's the
Mm,
killer.
hmm.
Watched it for like all the rest, the characters, the story, everything else. And the character, often the murderer was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
just everything
yeah,
else. And that's kind
yeah.
of how I think this series is. And once again, it's not a knock. Different mysteries have different strengths. And I think this
Mm,
one is just we are, and I agree with you, so invested in these characters now. And you're a perfect example of exactly why Hallmark needs to commit to, if you
yeah.
look at it, you didn't like it at first, then you kind of didn't like it, then you okay, and
And
then you
now
liked it,
the
and now you
castle.
really like it, right? And
Yeah.
it's because it gave time to build, it gave time to get invested in these characters, it came time for these characters to grow and us to just really like them. So
And as you're saying that, like even thinking about like garage sale, I didn't necessarily watch for the mystery or the murder because they built on like the family dynamics. We got to know, oh, what are their kids doing? Oh, how are, Steve Basic and Lori Laughlin, how are their characters getting along? What are they doing? And then again, Sarah Strange is the sidekick. You got really invested into those in their antique shop. And so kind of similar to this is we get to know more of these surrounding people and we get to enjoy them. We get to have fun in their town. And when they bring in a unique mystery such as the band, like that is a fun element, or going to the castle. So for me, little pieces like that will make it I'll remember this episode because of, oh yeah, it's the one with the band. Oh, yeah, it's the one with the castle. The grill blowing up. These are and I can't remember the other ones. Like
the
those are,
crazy bride.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So again, little things like that. I forgot that one, so clearly didn't really, really stick out to me. But like those are the things that I think draws back to certain ones. And the same with garage sale. Like I have like the surfing one. I'll go back and watch that. The one where the locked room where someone gets killed at night. Like all of these things are the ones that you might get drawn into, and you're like, hey, if I'm flipping through the channel, that's the one I want to watch because it is the most memorable.
The No, the crazy bride, when at the end, when Goldie's in the wedding dress and
Yes.
she's been tied up, and she's like, her first reaction isn't like, oh, I'm free. It's like, wait, why are you wearing a wedding dress? Oh my God, that was classic. Love that one. All right. All
Well,
right.
what
What
about
kind of
romance?
romance? Yeah, yeah. All right. So my
Um,
romance, my first note, you mentioned it. Where the hell happened to Track?
yeah, he's
So
gone.
here's the thing, and I forgot to mention this earlier. The timeline on this has me confused because this is Goldie's and Tom's first date,
Hmm.
which means it would be right after the last episode, Foiled Plans, because that's when they're like, oh, hey, let's go on a date, which was in a blizzard that snowed them in. And now they have this Track, who's like part of the police force, is just disappeared. It just seemed like more than either that, or it took quite a while to plan, like 3 months to plan this first date. So the timeline was a little bit weird for being a first date and being right after the
It's
last
Colorado
episode.
though. Like
But
it's kind of like Minnesota. Like if it's in the
okay,
spring, like you can get a blizzard that can come
I
in and
know.
it can be
Oh,
gone, a week later or whatever.
I
So
know Colorado can be there. Uh, Chipotle used to be one of my clients, and I was there, and it was -2 degrees, freezing cold. And when you're an Arizona guy who doesn't even own a coat, that is brutal. And then by the weekend, it was like 45 degrees. So crazy. I get the Arizona, or excuse me, the Colorado weather, but still, the timeline just seemed a little bit weird. And then Marla just has bad luck with her romance. She
it's very
deserves,
much like,
like, I
yeah,
thought she was
Sarah.
going to, after the last one, like, her and Track seemed to be progressing and all of that, because once again, timeline, here she is in the castle, Track's her boyfriend, they've got something going, and a week later, Track's not even around, and Marla's all googly googly over the guitarist. So I don't know, whatever. But you said it earlier, the chemistry with Nikki and Andrew, we said we were fine with them being friends. Nope, they are just cute couple, totally
Slow burn.
in this. So there we go.
Yeah.
I'm happy with it. What about you?
Yeah, I think that the slow burn relationship, like they have, slowly grown on me. And I had read an interview with Andrew saying like our chemistry and, we wanted to move this forward. And so I think they again listened to the fan feedback and said, let's not drag this out like other mysteries have. Let's get going. Let's get some of this going. Otherwise, again, it leaves us, if they wouldn't have kissed, if they wouldn't have went on a date, I think we would be having a different discussion right now. And it probably wouldn't have liked it as much because I think it just moved past maybe a hurdle that as viewers you're like, we just move on, like just keep moving it forward versus spinning our wheels here. So I think that was brilliant with the story. And then I agree with the Marla and the Trek. And um I really liked him. I think maybe, I don't know if he was as well received as other characters. I mean, I enjoyed him. Did you enjoy him?
He was all right. The first one I was like,
Yeah.
and then the second one in the castle, I
Yeah.
thought he
So
was a good match for Marla.
I think I was higher on him maybe than other people. And so for me, I missed him a little bit. I understand why they had to get rid of him because obviously if this whole plot was dependent upon that. But then when we're also thinking about that, like in the future, if they are going to do kind of what they did to Sarah Strange, hey, if we can have this happen again with Marla, we can throw her into another relationship that might be of similar caliber where, oh, it actually, hey, this guy is the murderer.
Well, that's kind of the role of the second, in command, right? You've got
Yeah.
Goldy and Tom. You can't
Right.
have Goldy doing it, so that's Marla is going to be that
Yeah.
one who you can play with that character a little more.
Well, who was your character for Character Corner?
Well, you didn't like her, but Fiona Vroom, love her.
Mhm.
She's like one of the ones who I think needs to get the lead soon.
And that's Richard's
Yeah.
girlfriend who played, yes, just in
Yeah.
case people are like, who's that?
So she, the fan club president who gave, they did a pretty good job of setting her up to be the crazy fan who killed and everything. So
And
I
just
really liked her.
oblivious to like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
sending you this. And they're like, wait, is she like really oblivious or is she actually a stalker and like hardcore, like psycho? Nope, just
Right.
oblivious.
So I like her. She was great. She was in Three Wise Men and a Baby. Loved her character then. She was in Wedding Veil. Um, I think it was the second one, if I'm not mistaken. Great, or excuse me, the second one of the second series. Great there. She's just really good, and one of the ones who is the secondary character. We're getting Amy Groening moving up this week, and twas the day before Christmas. I think Fiona is similar, just really good. And so even though she was psycho, and you kind of like didn't like her, and she didn't really fit, I don't think with Richard,
Correct. That's
but
why I didn't like her. I'm like, I don't like this
yeah, and
person with him
I'll
because
say
I love him.
there was probably like an inappropriate age gap between the two of them if we looked up their ages too, and you know how I hate that.
I
But
know, unless it's 20 years, then you're
unless
fine with it.
unless it's exactly 20 years and is Steve Basic and Kimberly Susta. But other than that, yes. But regardless, it didn't matter. I thought she was played that role just perfectly, like you said. sh- So oblivious, right, to everything, and yet here she is in a murder investigation, and she's just completely clueless. So I loved her. I loved her in it. Who do you have? I'm guessing.
Well,
I have a guess. Prove me
guess.
right.
Sarah Strange.
Did not see that coming.
I mean, I had to because again, she was in
Right.
both movies. And I adore her. She was the band manager. She rocked that like nose ring as well. And she had the fun, spiky hair. Again, just brilliant. I mean, to me, like this just shows her range of like when you think about all three of those characters, the main characters that she has played in this movie, the last one, and then in Garage Sale, you're like, those are all unique, eclectic characters. And so I really do want to see more of her, or even as a lead in a mystery. Like that's where I think someone had said, like, have her be the new Garage Sale lady and just like develop that story, which I'm totally for because again that the antique shop I really liked that as a setting and I'm a big setting person.
As I said, bring the daughter back. Have her take over.
I mean those two can do it together
Jen's murdered, and the daughter steps in.
and that would make sense because of all the times that she got into trouble and her husband tried to warn her. So again it would make sense. Maybe they'll do that, maybe not. And then again we get more Steve Basic, which nobody is going to argue.
I am on board.
Yes. So what do you have for our trivia this week?
So the director is David Winning, and the M. Night Shyamalan said Sixth Sense was inspired by an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark, which was a series that David Winning directed. So he clearly knows how to do the mystery and things like that. But kind of cool because Sixth Sense is, I think, probably considered one of the all-time
Never seen it.
great like twist movies.
No,
And to be like, hey, you're the one who inspired me, I think that's a pretty cool thing.
I
I didn't
I've
see
never
it.
seen
I
it.
didn't see it until like years later when I knew what was happening. And I'll tell you what, if you know what's happening,
Not as cool.
not as cool.
I'm pretty sure that's the one I do also know the ending to, and so I don't like scary. Like Hallmark cozy mysteries, that's my genre. Anything
Uh,
above that, it's too much.
it's not scary. It's more of a just like a shocking twist.
Mm. See, even like the Disney Plus, the Agatha All Along, which I've been watching, I will say I tried to watch it last night and I was like, I am gonna have bad dreams. So I had to shut it off after like 10 minutes in because again, I like that one, but that's about as scary as I can get before I will not sleep. So that's my threshold for scariness.
Yeah, I'm not usually into a lot of like the other M. Night Shyamalans. I haven't
Yeah,
seen any of those ones.
me
But,
neither.
all right, what do you got?
Well, I was really trying to scour the internet for something, and what I came up with, Andrew Walker said the hardest part of playing Detective Tom Schultz is that Tom is an introvert and doesn't really like to go out in public, whereas Andrew himself is actually quite extroverted. So for him, just playing the complete opposite person. And then Nikki DeLoach's husband was actually in a boy band himself called Take Five from 97 to 2001, which I did not know either. So that's kind of a fun little tie-in to this movie as well.
Well, you know, she was in a girl band, right?
Well, she was in the Mickey Mouse Club.
She was also Innocence. She was the singer of Innocence.
Well, see, look at that. We have just all the fun facts. Didn't know that. Or if I did know that, I forgot it.
Yeah,
Well, what about
I
Hallmark and
posted it
Chill?
on our Instagram page, but you don't listen to me ever, so.
Okay, social media, that's a different thing because those things go quick. I try to read stuff, but stuff goes quick.
All right, I actually have. Oh wait, no, we're in Hallmark and Chill now, right?
Yeah. What do you
This is what I've
got?
been waiting for.
Oh,
Here's why the movie didn't rank higher for me.
okay.
The theme of the singer getting electrocuted by the mic,
Was a Murder Shirt episode.
Midsummer Murders, season 10, episode 5, The Axeman Cometh. Hired Gun has a reunion. The lead singer gets electrocuted by the mic.
What year did that come out?
Like 90 or maybe early 2000s.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
Poker Face, which was a
Oh,
recent
is that what you sent
Netflix.
me?
Yes, Rest in Metal, a band songwriter dies years before the band is not successful without him because that one wrote she wrote the hit song and no one else could ever muster it. And then a new guy joins the band who's this like crazy quirky drummer and writes the song. And so the band kills him so they can claim the song by electrocuting him with the microphone. So that for me, like you're saying earlier, and that's what I was like kind of holding off. Like one of the things for you, because you probably haven't seen these two, it was such a good, unique thing that it sticks out for you. But I've seen it twice, and I rewatched Midsummer last night just to once
Did you not
again
just
do
hear
it
me tell you that Murder She Wrote did this in the 80s?
with the electrocuted microphone.
That's what I'm about to recommend.
Okay, well there we go. So
So no, Eric, this is not unique to me. This is Murder She Wrote, season 12, so the last season, episode 14, Murder in Tempo. So technically, it would be the 90s. Seth's benefit concert to save the Cabot Cove Woods is endangered when the lead singer is permanently silenced. He was electrocuted on stage, and he was wearing leather-based shoes and standing in water and got electrocuted, where the bandmate had rubber bottom shoes on, and so he did not
that
when
was
he
the
grabbed the
poker. That's
microphone.
Poker Face, basically.
So again, they took the murder. Again, as you had said, Murder She Wrote has done it all, and people will steal all of the sorts. I mean, which you should, because this is why I recommend Murder She Wrote after everyone. There is an episode for all of these movies.
By the way, Axeman Cometh, the Midsummer, that's from February 2nd, 2007 is when that one aired.
So Murder She Wrote came before. Just saying, Angela Lansbury. That's why she's the queen. She's the queen. And also, as this is airing, this would have been her almost 100th birthday. Is October 16th is her birthday.
Oh, day before
which is
me.
similar to your birthday, which is October 17th, a month
Right.
after mine. And my mom's
Exactly.
birthday is October 16th. So shout out and happy birthday to my
That's why
mother.
you like Angela Lansbury.
I discovered that actually just recently, well, when she passed, because she passed right before, I think it was her 98th or 99th birthday. She's my grandma's age, or would have been my grandma's age, because my grandma is still alive and can't quite recall if she's 97 or 98.
Well, Eminem has.
Anywho,
I share a birthday with Eminem.
oh, the candy, I love it.
Detroit.
Oh,
Eminem.
of course. All right, well, Fan Corner. This is another really high-ranking movie, actually even more high-ranking than the Aurora. So 5 out of 5 was 59%. That's huge. 4 out of
It is.
5, 35%. And 3 out of 5 was just 5%, and 0 for 1 or 2. So this one was really highly rated. And it was premiering on the Hallmark Mystery, so probably more people saw it. So I think that's a really good sign. If you haven't caught this one, that it's a good one. And all that I saw was positive reviews when I just happened to look through this morning before we hit record. I was like, oh, I loved it. Did everyone else? And yeah, people were very high on it. So what do we have coming up here? We have
But
an
wait,
interview.
we have
Oh
fan
yeah, I
mail.
forgot.
So people,
You have a fan
if you
mail.
listen to our podcast, there's a little thing where you can click and say you want to leave us a message, and you can send us a message. So we had one a couple weeks ago that said, "Oh, we're doing a great job. Pat ourselves in the back. That we really, it's fun being sleuther, talking to sleuthers, and all that good stuff." But this one,
We thank you. We do
yes,
thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
this one was directly for you, Andrea, and it was, did you know the co-creator of Murder, She Wrote lived in the Mendez brothers' house at one time? William Link purchased the home in 1993 and lived in it for 8 years, according to an article on People magazine.
I did not know that. That's really cool.
Thank you. I don't know who it's from. We just know it's from Albuquerque. So somebody in Albuquerque sent us this wonderful message. Feel free to send us whatever you want. Love it. Love hearing from everybody.
And I will also say I was wrong. The Fiona gal that I was like, yeah, she's in Glee, that Jenny had mentioned in the Christmas
yes.
preview show. It is not. They look Becca Tobin is her name from Glee, and I totally messed up. I thought it was the same person, and so I literally just discovered they are not the same person when someone sent me a message, and I was like, huh, all these times I've watched Fiona on screen, I thought she was in Glee. So my bad.
Yep.
See, I own up to my mistakes, Eric.
When I make one, I will
Oh,
own up to it.
jeez. Okay. Well, we're going to finish this week off with another interview on Friday. And then next week, we are going to be ranking all of our mysteries from 2024. And then we'll kind of recap which is our favorite Christmas movie from last weekend. So I'm looking forward to it. And I definitely have some tough choices now that are going to be battling it out for my, really my top 5 spots are going to be a tight race.
I know it's so who we're talking to on Friday is Lillian Duquette Rocher, who talked to her weeks ago. She started Katie, the podcaster, the competitive true crime podcaster in Cases. We've just had so many things that have been going on that I had to push it. So finally we get to air it. I tell you what, she is absolutely delightful. And she stars in the Hallmark movie, which will be coming out with Angela from The Office. So she has a good Christmas movie coming up, so we get to see her again. But I'm really excited because seriously, it was one of the just nicest conversations I think I've ever had with one of the actors. So I think people will just love it. All right. Well, you ready to get on with your day? Go teach some yoga?
I'm gonna go teach some yoga.
All right. I hope you have Alden in your class.
That would actually be very amusing.
Have a good day, Andrew.
Bye.